So continuing here, the passage I was thinking of was Jesus was talking about how he would be rejected, and anybody that followed his teachings would be rejected by the world. And I see that same thing today. I see people that are anti-establishment, like Trump, being rejected. And nobody's got a coherent argument for why this is okay. But the passage in particular I'm thinking of was when Jesus said, he compared himself to a stone that the builders rejected, that he was the cornerstone, the chief cornerstone of all the affairs of men. That's it. That's his lot. That's his place. That's what he is, essentially, as a metaphor for how important the teachings Jesus brought and what he did, because it was so much more than just his teachings. I mean, for crying out loud, he raised dead people. He caused the blind to see, the deaf to hear, the mute to speak. He paid this ultimate sacrifice for the sins that really we deserved. And not enough can be said for what Jesus did for humanity. So he said that those that fall on the stone, he being the stone, Jesus being that stone, would be broken into pieces. But those on whom the stone falls will be crushed into dust. Something to that effect. Of course, I paraphrase every quote I ever make. But you can understand he is this cornerstone that we must fall on. We must be, in a sense, broken spiritually. That is the state by which God can work with us. It's much like the way a drug addict or an alcoholic finds our way into a 12-step program. When they hit their bottom, when they admit they can't cope, they can't contend, something is bugging them beyond their ability to deal with. And this is a time when God works with us. And in our weakness, his strength is perfected. So there is good scriptural basis for this. So we all have to admit that things really suck in some way, that we have a valid, legitimate complaint to bring forth. And I hear some people talk, they're bragging about the West and how great we are and all this, but there are a lot of younger people. I mean, I don't know how many of the people, like Alex Jones says on his show, that have children that are millennials and have to deal with the stuff. Both my daughters have their college degrees, and so they've been indoctrinated and inculcated with the nonsense that they're being, that's emanating from the very top. It is the people that are footing the bills, putting it on our backs, though, okay? That's the way it works. For example, the mainstream media, who's footing the bill for the mainstream media? Well, you say, it's the people that own it. They're paying the bill, so they get to dictate what they teach us, because that's what the mainstream media, they're giving us information, and information is education. So who's controlling it? Well, we'll say, yeah, we know these elite people, and they've got their hidden agendas, and we'll say they choose the curriculum, what's taught, what's not taught. They'll decide what's relevant, what's not, what's important to learn, and what's not. So they delete and omit at will anything that they say is not important. Ethics, this kind of thing, real understanding in economic type things. They don't care that people have a basic fundamental understanding of economic principles, which I contend is imperative. And I'm getting distracted every which way. My mind just isn't focused at all. I think it has something to do with the drive down and then the argument I had with my daughter, but I'm having a hard time getting in the zone here. But listen, I kind of wanted to focus on problem solving, something I don't hear enough of. And the problem solving is really simple. if you fundamentally understand that the evil people that run the world, they don't want the problem solved. It's that simple. Because without the problems, they'd be rendered irrelevant. You've got to fundamentally understand that. And the problems all emanate from the fact that we've got these money masters in place. And it's been this way for thousands of years. And people might say, well, no, that's not true. And show me in history. Because as far as I know, there's always been money, some form of money. And this is, of course, the root of all evil, is that people fall in love with this notion, this precept, this idea of concentrating their wealth. And it allures so many people, and it fascinates them, and they'll do anything for it. We've got to understand it's a big problem, and somehow, some way, someday, we've got to get off the junk entirely. It's a root of all of our problems, all of the division. And people just don't get it. I see the vast majority of people, it seems like they're really out of touch. I mean, most people don't even know what the term egalitarian means. They don't know. I believe a lot of people think it's a negative thing. And I just don't see how. I mean, by default, if you're not an egalitarian, then you are somebody that believes in inequality. And then automatically, by default, you have no standing. If you don't believe in equality, you've got no standing to tell anybody else where they should or should not draw the line in terms of inequality. You understand? So I think the point should be taken. It's not a matter of intellect that I'm saying this. It's a matter of just being honest. People have to be honest with themselves. They have to say, yes, it's true that no other creature on earth uses money, has any use for it, and they seem to get along a lot better than we do, okay? And we, being humans, made in the image and likeness of God, we should find this absurd that we are having this huge problem with money, this stumbling block that's keeping humanity from evolving, from growing, from progressing. We're being sold regression as progression. And fundamentally, people got to get that through their heads. This is what's being sold in the mainstream media, in the colleges and universities. They just want us divided. If they don't have us divided and think, oh, no, the socialist and communist theorists, these are, remember, perception is reality. These are the egalitarians. These are the humanitarians. These are the ones that believe in, they're anti-sexism, they're anti-racism, they're anti-xenophobia, they're anti-anything negative. And so perception is reality. And this is what people think. And it's very powerful because as a man thinketh, so he will act out. As he thinks, that'll come out his mouth, and then it'll come out his behavior. So, this is why so many wars have been fought and people died. Millions upon millions of people have died over different philosophies and belief systems. So anybody that thinks it's a joke and this is something we could tease people about. You don't have to answer to me for your beliefs. That's good. And if you think that's effective, making fun of people, I don't find it is. I think it's just they might act like you're having an effect, but you don't. Okay. And you've got to hold an olive branch out to these people till the bitter end. Okay. That's what it's all about. It's about being a peacemaker, stepping up to the plate, being honest, saying, am I doing everything I can to pull? If you believe somebody's in darkness, then you have an obligation, a responsibility to pull them out of darkness into the light. This is the cross that people that profess Christianity, that philosophy of living by the golden rule. This is the cross they have to bear, is to reach out to others and to say, you know what, it doesn't matter if this feels really bad, to humble myself and to just listen, okay? But we have to eat crow sometimes in order for the betterment of other people. We have to understand the big picture. This is about winning souls. A big deal, winning souls for God. It doesn't matter. All these terms and names we bandy about, they don't mean a damn thing. I could call myself whatever I want. And if you don't know, if you're ignorant about what that thing is, you think the guy's real. You don't know he's even being sarcastic. Okay, so this is the ignorance and the confusion runs deep, and it's a serious business. People have to understand. They fundamentally have to get just how warped our thinking is. We've got to understand how we've been played and duped, tricked, cheated, deceived over many thousands of years. So it's any wonder that we're at this point in history where we're at. And people think that, oh, because we're the best house in a bad neighborhood. Look back. I mean, Trump's the one talking about make America great again. Let's talk about it. What does that mean to you? To young people like Alex Jones, 43 years old. I mean, does he even remember when America was great? Okay. Max Kaiser's been talking about it. Yeah, it was in the 70s and stuff when, the wages were tied into the cost of living, and the Labor Department was very cognizant that, hey, if the cost of living goes up for basic things like energy and food and housing, water, if those things went up, then you need a commensurate pay adjustment, or else you just got to pay decrease. So what is so radical? What is so wild about that idea of tying wages into the cost of living? And don't blame the worker. They're not the ones gouging you. They're just trying to keep an even keel. Okay? Who do you blame? You blame the market manipulator. So if the employers don't like giving their employees a raise, don't blame them. It's not their fault. Blame the people that are market manipulating, that are fixing prices. They're colluding. Do you understand? They have an interest in colluding. That's it. It's all about numbers. As long as their numbers go up, they don't give a crap about your numbers. All these politicians can give themselves raises. These banks are, they get the money printing rights. I mean, what do they say about banks? The best way to rob a bank is to own one? Sure, of course, that's what's going on here. Look what happened with Maxine Waters in her banking relationships with her husband. I mean, these people are corrupt criminals. That's the whole world is taken over by evil, criminality, satanic criminality. And people got to understand that's the spirit. That's the attitude of these people. It's a dog-eat-dog thing. It's a rat race. It's social Darwinianism. And it's perverted, and it's sick and twisted, and it must perish. It must go. God's will and Satan's will are utterly and entirely, absolutely incompatible. Okay? No, I make no bones about that. So we got to understand, in order to usher in God's will on earth, then we have to get rid of all the evil impetus, okay, to keep this trajectory of evil going through impoverishing the masses, through this national debt, through dubious warfare, through a nice, healthy, strong crime rate, through a social welfare industry set up. Now it's not in anybody's interest to solve the problem. It would be immensely cheaper just to solve humanity's problem of extreme, desperate poverty all over the world, see crime plummet overnight, dry up virtually in a very short order. Okay, the dubious war, much harder to get these dubious wars started. Okay, a man will march off for free to go to a war that's justified, to go kick some tyrant's ass. Okay, but we shouldn't have to worry about conscripting people. And that you notice that when the economy turns bad, that's when so many guys, they want to join the service. They feel relevant, they feel important, they feel wanted, needed. And it's a heroic position, a valiant position, right? To be the protectors, to be the defenders. Yes, we all get it. The bravery and the valor, all that good, wonderful stuff that comes with being a soldier. So I respect these soldiers just as much as anybody. Don't get me wrong. I could be one myself. Okay, I was rejected because I was 43. 43. I had never been stronger in my life at 43. But yet, no, they didn't have any need for me on the morning of 9/11, 2001. But anyhow, I'm digressing as usual. But the point about discussion is, first you got to clarify the words, okay? If you're going to start using words like freedom, in what context are you using it? Because you're not in jail? Because you have free speech? In some other way that you're using freedom? Is it because something was free? It didn't cost you anything? Or what are we talking about absolute freedom? Okay, because absolute freedom means that we must be born free. And unless you're born free from the money masters of misery, you're not born free. Let's make that very clear. Okay, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If God had his way, we'd be born free. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you were born free, you wouldn't be born beholden to the money masters. When you served humanity, you would do it of your own free will and accord because you have an instinct not to be a self-serving, slothful, lazy, decadent pissant. You want to be appreciated. You want to be useful. You want to contribute your talents. You want to utilize. It's very natural. Prove me wrong. Prove to me that the system will break down if everybody is born well heeled, okay? It won't. And that is what the evildoers are deathly afraid of everybody finding out. And that's what brings me great joy to explain that to people in no uncertain terms. I know what I'm talking about. I know the system would break down if we were all born rich. So take that. I mean, is that a communist thing? Is that a capitalist thing? What kind of thing is it? It's a paradox. It's like Victor Hugo. What he said is very true.